morning. What's going on? This morning, I want to do a little financial lesson, some practical financial wisdom that you can go and use straight away. Look what's happening here, by the way. Hello. What is going? Oh. Hello. This morning, I want to talk about cash. I want to talk about storing, stashing, building cash. I'm very big on liquidity. If you've done the first lesson of Infinite Prosperity, you'll know the prosperity formula. It's based on liquidity. Why is it based on liquidity? Because liquidity, in other words, having access to money, having friggin' money available, is what gives you lifestyle. It's your liquidity that pays for cars, houses, travel, life pays for breakfast. And over the years, I've seen two primary philosophies of how people go and build their wealth. Some people build on liquidity and flexibility and passive income. This is what I do. This is what I teach. It's the way to a great lifestyle. And the other main philosophy is to go and build equity, to focus on equity. This is the people who go and buy their first home in their 20s because they think that that's a good investment. Go and build your equity. And look, going and buying your first home in your 20s is probably a better use of money than going and getting pissed at the pub every Friday night, right? It's a little bit smarter. But at the end of the day, you're going to work to pay for your house. You're going and working for money. You're going and working for money rather than having money go and work for you. You're going and working to pay for a house that's sitting there empty while you're at work. Over years, yeah, look, you'll probably grow some equity. That's cool. But that's not the kind of life that I want, and that's not the kind of life that when I go and talk to these people who've made those decisions, that's not the life they want either. They just didn't know better because they didn't take the time to educate themselves. Let me talk about cash real quick. Hi. Holy gosh. I think he's tuning in for my finance lesson. Cash. My whole financial philosophy, everything you'll ever learn in Infinite Prosperity, is rooted in cash savings. We have a cash foundation. That means you have a job at the moment. That's really cool. Get some of that income and save it every week. Save it. Most people don't take the time to save a bit of cash. They don't have any cash saved up, and that limits their opportunities. That limits their potential. That limits their options in life, because if you don't have cash, you're forced into going to work. You're forced into doing the shit that you may not want to do. If it costs you $1,000 a week just to live, and you've only got $1,000 in the bank, you're good for a week. If you don't make income in that week, you're in a spot of trouble. That's very stressful. But if you go and save up 10 grand, you can buy yourself 10 weeks into the future. You can buy yourself time. And that's not ideal, 10 weeks, but it gives you just a little bit more wiggle room. It gives you a little bit more clarity of thought to be creative. When you've got your 50 grand saved up in liquidity, you can buy yourself a year forward. And when you can buy yourself a year forward, you've got a lot of wiggle room. You've got options. You're now going to work because you see that as a benefit to you, not because you have to. When you go and get $1 million saved up, when you hit the big 7, you can go and invest the million at 5%. It's liquid million. You go and invest the million at 5%, you get $50,000 a year in dividend return. That's your income. You don't have to work anymore. And when your money's going to go and work for you, instead of you having to go and work for your money, guess what you do? Whatever the hell you want to do. You don't have to do anything. You do whatever the hell your heart desires. On the contrary, you go and buy a $500,000 property. You go and get your property in your 20s, a $500,000 property, and let's just say property doubles every 7 to 10 years, which is not true, it's a rumor, but even if it did, let's just assume it does, and the property does really well, and over many, many years, it's worth now 1.5. By the way, on that property, let's also assume that there was no maintenance, repairs, and renovations. You didn't have to fix the roof and paint the walls and fix the fridge that collapsed and get the new thing and the new hoo-ha and the woo-woo, which usually offsets any capital growth anyway. But let's just assume that didn't happen. And we'll assume that you got the $1 million equity in the house. What are you doing every day? You're going to work. What are you going to do with $1 million equity in your house besides talk about it down at the pub? You can't just chip off a brick and go and pay for breakfast with it. You can have $1 million equity and you're a millionaire. By definition, you're a millionaire. But you're still going to work. That fucker isn't making you income. That house is just sitting there, empty all day. That's not making you an income. It's not working for you. 95% of people will never get there, so it's irrelevant and redundant anyway. They'll never become millionaires. They'll never get any degree of financial independence. They'll be working until they drop. The top 5% of people will become equity millionaires. Their property and investments will be worth over $1 million. And the vast majority of them will bang their head against the wall wondering what went wrong. They became millionaires, but their life still sucks. They don't have any degree of freedom and independence. It's only the top 1% who figure out the game, and the game is liquidity. Cash is king. I cannot stress this enough. The game is liquidity. You need to be liquid. You need to be nimble. You need to be able to move your hips financially, so to speak. So here's what's going to happen. As of today, if you don't already, which if you follow me here, you should already, but if you don't already, you're going to start saving. Start saving a portion of your income. However much you can, aim for 10%, but if you can't, go with 5. And I'm going to give you 2 suggestions of where you might want to start by putting your money. By the way, if you don't keep too much cash in the bank. Who puts their money in banks? Normal people. What do we want? Abnormal results. You don't do what the normal people do, right? First and foremost, mortgage offset. If you do have a mortgage, particularly if it's your own home and there's no tax deductions associated with the interest component, you want to put your money in mortgage offset. If you're borrowing at 5% per year, you put your cash there. Every 100 grand you have in a mortgage offset account is $100,000 that effectively comes off your mortgage repayments. It's like getting a 5% return on your money, but it comes in the form of lowered expenses, not capital growth or gains. There's no tax component. When you go and invest and make money, you gotta pay tax. But when you go and save money and lower your expenses, you don't pay tax on the savings. So you'd have to go and make a 7% return, pay the 30% tax, you would lower your net return down to 5, you may as well put your money in a mortgage offset. It's completely liquid and there's no risk. There's no ups and downs, there's no market guessing, there's no speculation, there's no anything, there's no timing, there's no nothing. Mortgage offset is first suggestion. Second suggestion, look up cash funds. If you're in Australia, you might want to look up the Vanguard Cash Plus Fund. This is pretty neat. You want to go and look at this. They've been popping 4.15% for the last 17 years. That is not bad for a cash fund. And that total return includes the management costs, which is very low, 0.7%. What are we talking here? Your spread is 0.2%. That's 20 cents on every $1,000 that you put in. Very low. And for Aussies, you can be paid in every month. You'd be paid in, $100 minimum. That's a way to get 4% on your money. What are the big banks paying at the moment? CommBank here, what do we got? 2.5%. Ooh. Oh, just for the first 3 months. 1.9%. This is for normal people, right? Now, I know that the vast majority of you guys here are probably already my students, infinite prosperity students, and you know all this stuff. This is very elementary to you, but if anything that I've just said is kind of shocking or you didn't know it yet, please do the first 3 lessons. Just here in the free lessons, we're going to go over the money map. We're going to go over the prosperity formula that I touched on here. We're going to talk about the uncomfortable truth about why most people really never get it. They never get there. And then the next lesson, which is also part of the free membership, right? It's Intro to Trading and Investing. We're going to be talking about trading and investing, where to put your money and why to put it there. We're going to be talking about this guy, the wealth pyramid, building your wealth on cash foundations. We're going to be talking about how to deal with debt, the 3 things that I suggest you do if you're in debt and how to get your way out of there. We're going to talk about trading, then we're going to be talking about Forex, we're going to be talking about speculation. The whole kit and caboodle is here, and this is the free content, golly gosh. Because after your mortgage offset and after your savings and after your 4%, it goes a little deeper than that, right? That's not our end game, that's just our cash layer. We go a little bit deeper than 4%. Let me give you one final thing, because every time I do this lesson, I know that I get so many messages from people who did the property thing. You know how I was explaining out there, they went and got the property because they thought it was the right thing to do, and now they're trapped. And based on my scenario out there, let's just say that you have $1 million in equity in a single property, but you're trapped and you're working and it's not doing anything and the house is sitting there. You've got $1 million equity. What do? I will just provide one potential option. By the way, I'm looking after you guys in Australia today. Usually I do a lot of US teachings, right? But Australians are getting looked after today. I would suggest potentially looking into a real estate investment trust such as this one. This is just one potential option. To move your investment portfolio from equity-based to liquidity-based, income-based, passive income, you need to liquidate the equity. You need to get rid of the equity, sell the property, and move it into liquid investments. Real estate investment trusts are one such investment. The question you really have to ask yourself is, why would you buy one peasant house in suburbia when you can buy into a fund that's managing $4.5 billion worth of property? When you can buy into Westfield, Stockland, Mirvac, Center Group. We have retail property, we have industrial property, we have office space, we've got residential property, we've got healthcare facilities. By buying into this, you get a lot of properties rather than one little peasant property. Your dividend yield at the moment is 5.1%. That doesn't include capital growth because your distribution since inception is 5.53, that's your dividend. And your total, what do we got here? 11% per annum so far. That means with your $1 million in equity, you could withdraw a $55,000 per year income and your investments would still, so far, on average, go up $64,000. Income plus capital growth. And it's completely liquid. At any time, if you want your money back, you click the button, the money's in your account in 3 days. You don't have to sell property and go to the real estate agent and do all that bullshit. I hope this has been helpful. This line of thinking, it appears very obvious to me, but the more people I get to meet around the world, the more I realize that it's not obvious. People weren't taught this stuff. This is what infinite prosperity is. This is what we do. This lesson got wildly out of control as usual. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. Obviously on the financial ones, I gravitate toward financial teachings. Right? I go off on tangents and there's so much more I want to share. Golly gosh.